The countdown is on, but you're not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. I'm your host, Gage, and today I am happy to be joined by Alex Jurgens, a scholarships and grants specialist here at Education Quest. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining us on the podcast once again.
Hi, Gage. I'm happy to be back again.
So the new year is just right around the corner. This year flew by, I feel like.
I know. Yeah, same here.
So Alex and I both wanted to sit down and just kind of talk about ways to make, 2026 your year. So Alex, can you just start us off by talking about like why you think the start of a new year feels such a good time to reset? What kind of makes it like a natural point for students to think about who they want to become or what they want to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the first thing I want to say is whenever you feel that you want to do a reset, you can do it at any point of a year. But what makes a new year a little more natural to think about a reset is it's a great time to think about your past year, to think about the great and hard moments, and to think about what you wish were different and what you wish what you could have done differently in that previous year. So that's why a lot of folks like to think about the next year of what are some things that I can do or change or who I can be in the next year, from what I dealt with and what I faced in the previous year.
Yeah, I am someone who sometimes I'll catch myself like halfway through the year being like, I can't do it. I'll just wait till it resets in the new year. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, actually, I can make the change now. But it
Hmm.
is a nice starting
Yeah.
off point, like you said. So now I don't know where you fall in this category, Alex, but some people make New Year's resolutions
Hmm.
while others skip them altogether. Do you think resolutions are worth making? And if students choose to, how can they set ones that they'll actually keep, past just January?
Yeah. Well, I definitely am in the team of resolutions are worth making. However, sometimes folks put too much expectations on resolutions. And they set really high and admirable goals. But statistically, you're more likely not to keep a resolution than to keep one. And I think due to that is just the pressure that we put on ourselves and the goals that we're trying to make. So I'm in the firm belief of less is more. And also, when you're working or thinking about what resolutions to do, really be honest with yourself and think, all right, when it's May of next year, am I still going to be doing this resolution? You really want your resolution to be something that you know will be hard, but you're excited to do. If you go in thinking, well, I should do this, and you're not as excited, you're less likely to keep that resolution. So, firm belief of less is more, but also really be honest with yourself and think like, all right, am I really excited for this resolution? And if so, how can I maintain it? If you're not, or even if you're questioning it, it might not be the best resolution for you to do in the next year.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more later in the episode, but it almost sounds like it's worth kind of framing resolutions as like intentions rather than
Mhm.
like something that you like I have to like attain this goal, and if you don't then it's like a fail of a year almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now on the flip side of this, a lot of people like to pick like a word of the year instead of
Mhm.
actually making a long list of goals. And this kind of goes into like intentions too. So how can choosing one word help students focus their mindset or their direction for the year?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite things to do now. I'm in definitely in that camp of choosing a word of the year. What I love about it is, like you said earlier, it is an intention. And what is an intention? It's really a theme or a why. And you get to use that more as a guide versus oh, I have to do these actions or these goals. It's more about letting yourself think in the context of, all right, what I'm doing or who am I being, does this fit into my word, the intention that I'm trying to create this year? So the simplest way to find your word is really just to Google word of the year ideas. There are so many lists out there that you can go through and really sit down and look at the words and first find a couple that maybe sit with you well and you're like, yeah, I really like this word. And then really think on those words about, well, would this be a word that I feel like I could use in my next year? And what could that look like based on who I want to be or the goals that I have or the actions that I want to take? But also, if you are listening or seeing or reading something that brings up a word or a phrase that inspires you, then use that as your word or your intention. So my word for 2025 was flourish, and I got it from a book that I was reading the year before that I really connected with the content. And so that was a great guiding point for me this year of like really checking in with myself to think, all right, am I really using flourish in my life right now? And how does it look? Or if I'm not, then why am I not? And what can I do to really add this idea and intention more into my life? So I think really Google is a great resource to find a word, but really like if you find a word that based on just like your daily life that you really feel connected to, then find a way to use that as your word for the next year.
Do you have a word for 2026 yet, or is it still coming to you?
I do. I do have my word and actually came to me a couple days ago. So, but my word for 2026 is going to be forward.
Okay, no, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that one.
Well, I mean, speaking of moving forward, let's talk about goals for a second,
Mhm.
because it's easy to focus, especially if you're still in school, if you're still a student. It's really easy just to kind of focus on like, oh, I need to get an A this year, or I need to,
Mhm.
make it to the varsity team, which are good goals, but
Yeah.
how can students also think about goals in ways that, support their mental health, their friendships, their finances, or even like spiritual growth?
Yeah. I always like to remind myself, and I think this is an important lesson for students to know, is that you're human first. So, yes, you want to do well in school, you want to do well in your extracurriculars, but you have to make sure that your personal needs are met and being addressed. So, when you're thinking about setting goals, add in personal goals. So think about what are the things that you want to do in the next year that are going to help you feel personally fulfilled. So remember that life is a balance. So of course we want to work hard and we want to have goals that are going to help us accomplish those things that we want to work on as a student or in our workplace. But also life is meant to be enjoyed. So think about how are you adding in those extra points of enjoyment into your life so that you don't always feel like you're working. And I'm someone that when I was in high school, I dealt with like pretty severe anxiety, and I always felt I had to do more and more and more as a student, both in the classroom and in my extracurriculars. So I really wish though that I had learned, oh, actually, I'm person first. So when you take care of your personal side, then it actually can show up better in your education side and your work side. So you have to have a balance in your life, and that's going to help you be able to be accomplished more in your life.
Yeah, we just did an episode with one of our college planning specialists, Lizzie, all about the
Mhm.
power of recharging and the importance of taking rest and time for yourself. And I feel like this goes in really well with some of those personal goals, like setting aside some time to, even if it's like 5 minutes, just recharge every
Yeah,
day while you're attacking,
absolutely.
your list of other many goals I'm sure that you have for
Hmm.
school or work or whatever. But
Yeah. That's a great, I love that you did that topic because that's really important, especially during the time where school's out and you have a break. So I love that.
mhm. Now we talked a little bit already about, where your inspiration for like Flourish came from. And, inspiration can come really from anywhere, from books, social media, podcasts, YouTube, that sort of thing. So, where do you think students can find the most positive and realistic motivation for setting and achieving their goals?
Hmm. I think first thinking about who your role models are and thinking about role models that are making a positive impact in your community or in your school or in the world. and seeing like if they have content online. Do they have a TikTok? Do they have a TED Talk? Do they have a book, a movie, anything of that nature? And just learn from them on the lessons that they've gained and how they were able to carry that on into the actions that they've been taking. Of course, if you're kind of trying to figure out other avenues of inspiration, talk with your teachers, talk with your counselors, talk with coaches or an adult mentor, because they all also have folks that inspire them. And those might be folks that you can learn from as well. And you maybe never heard of them, but they're folks that maybe their story can really have an impact on you. And of course, we live in the day and age of social media, especially TikTok now. TikTok is really huge. So if you're following someone on TikTok that you feel like, wow, they're doing like great things that I feel really inspired by, follow them, learn from them, see like what insights that they have as well, and talk with your family and friends. Like, know who's inspiring to them. I think the idea of inspiration is very unique to each person, but I also think it's a great talking point or question you can ask other people of who inspires you and learn and ask them why do they inspire you. And you might be able to use that as an avenue to find other folks that could have an impact on the goals and intentions you want to set.
Yeah, I love that. We've talked before in the podcast about, especially when you're away on a college campus, building that support network around you and surrounding yourself with people that inspire you and like push you to go further. So I feel like that's a good goal actually for 2026.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that
Good
down.
thing to think about.
Now, Alex, let's talk about habits.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, we all have habits that we would like to change or maybe do better at. So, especially things like, procrastinating or staying up too late, doom scrolling,
Mhm.
all those great things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's a realistic first step for, some breaking some old or unhealthy habits?
For sure. So I had to learn this lesson in many different points in my life, but I learned that if you are trying to stop a habit that you don't enjoy, you do have to start off more by limiting it than just full out stopping sometimes. And I think sometimes we feel the pressure of, I should just stop this goal, but more than likely we end up going back to it because our minds are so used to the routine of doing it. So it's finding ways that taking small steps to really slow down the habit rather than just doing a full stop. So I'll use the example where last year, due to some health reasons, I had to stop drinking coffee and caffeine. And I'm someone for over 10 years, I had coffee every day, and that's not an exaggeration. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But it wasn't me just the day that talking with doctors and then giving that recommendation where I said, okay, I'm just going to stop. I had to wean myself off of it. So it was gradually like drinking less and less and less. And it was hard. And I think that's the thing to remember when you're trying to stop a habit is that it's not easy. But if you feel that it's really contributing to what change you want to make and your why you want to change it, then you're going to eventually see the benefits of it. So I'm over a year out from like having caffeine. And I can honestly say like my physical, mental, emotional health has never been better. But at the time when I was in the process of doing it, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't like
Hmm.
this. But you have to just keep reminding yourself of that why. Why am I doing this? Oh, because I know it's going to make me feel better, or it's going to help me feel more productive, or feel like I'm more present. It's going to be a challenge, but if you feel committed to that challenge, eventually you're going to see the benefits and you're going to go, "Oh, okay. I can break this down." But don't feel like you have to do a full stop. Just find the small steps to limit the amount of time that you're doing the habit that you don't want to do.
Yeah, I love that. Baby steps, if you will.
Yes. Hmm.
Now let's talk about like starting a new habit. Maybe you want to
Yeah.
get into journaling or exercising, which can feel tough when life gets busy. So,
Yeah.
how can students create small habits that actually fit into their schedule and stick?
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back, it's kind of the reverse of how to stop, but it's still the same concept of you want to do something small but consistent. So, can you find, and like you mentioned before, can you find 5 minutes in your day to do something that you want to start that you think is going to be really, really beneficial for you. So doing a little bit is more productive than not doing it at all. So if you're like, I want to spend more time journaling, but I only have 5 minutes to do that, that's great. Then journal for those 5 minutes, add it into your schedule. If you're someone that's trying to stop a habit and you're doing the limit, like you're trying to do limits with it, maybe add in that healthy habit into that time span that you're trying to decrease. So if you're like, I'm only going to be on TikTok for 30 minutes and you were on it for an hour, could you then use some of that time to do something healthy? Or even if it's for 5 minutes, and 5 minutes of doing something healthy is still 5 minutes that you're really contributing to your well-being.
Yeah, and I know me and Alex just read a book by Mel Robbins actually called The
Mhm.
Let Them Theory, and in it she mentioned something called the 5 second rule. Because where I struggle is like in the morning, I've been trying to work out more. I hate mornings though, so I will just lay there
Mhm.
and hit snooze every 5 minutes. Anyways, she talks about, just counting to five and making yourself get up and just do it. Don't even give yourself time to think about it.
Yeah.
And that's especially true. I like how your idea of, say you're on TikTok for an hour every day. I don't know what my screen time looks like. Don't even
Yeah.
want to mention it. But spending that extra 5 minutes towards the end, maybe being like, okay, I'm going to count to five, and at that five, I'm just going to go do a little 5 minute meditation or something. Like
Mhm.
ways that you can build it up for yourself, so it's not, like you said, the opposite of changing habits. Not just cold turkey. It's building up to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all consistency. It's all those things that when you do more of the small, consistent actions, it actually can have a bigger impact than trying to do one thing, one big gesture at one point. So I think we're starting to have it like, I just want to fix this and do this quickly because we like instant gratification.
Hmm.
But really, to build or break a habit, it is about either taking small approaches to address it and being consistent about it.
Now, say we've gone throughout the year. We set some goals, and now it's spring semester, and sometimes it's
Hmm.
easy to kind of forget your goals by the time we get to that time of year. So, what's a good way for students to check in on their progress, or reset their goals mid-year?
Yeah, I think use your phone as a tool and resource. And because there's so many ways that it can help you stay on track and accountable. So using it to set reminders, or if you have the a to-do list on your phone, you have the notes app, or you can just look up different organizational tools. So rather than just blaming the phone and being like, oh, I have all these like avenues of just being distracted on my phone, use it as a resource. Find those ways that it can actually be in partnership with you wanting to accomplish those goals and staying on track. Or you can do more traditional ways like getting a planner. Um, One thing that I really love, and this might be considered really old school, is writing down things on a post-it note. I love the feeling of crossing something off when I accomplish it. Um, but there's many different avenues of just staying organized. Do whatever makes sense to you. But maybe, one goal might be, all right, I'm going to set time to like check in with my to-do list. So it might be in the morning, afternoon, or evening, and just say, all right, I'm going to check in to know like what I need to do or what needs to happen tomorrow. And say maybe that's the goal of like, I'm just going to make sure I'm every day taking a couple minutes to check in on my to-do list. That's a goal. That's something that you can accomplish. And if that's just the goal that you have, like, and you've never done that before, that's a huge step forward to help you feel more organized and on track with whatever you need to accomplish.
Yeah, I'm a chronic user of the Notes app on my phone.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hmm.
And you can, at least for Apple, you can pin notes. And so I'll always see like my goal, little note that I
Yeah.
made at the beginning of the year. So I can go add notes in throughout the year. But like you said, it's really whatever works for you. If you're old fashioned, you like pencil and paper, like a sticky note,
Mhm.
like just find a way that you're going to look and you're going to keep using it.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, having someone to talk about goals with can also make a big difference.
Hmm.
So, how can students, find an accountability buddy? And what's like the best way to support each other without adding pressure?
Yeah, I think. First, finding someone that you feel comfortable sharing, maybe more personally, being a little more vulnerable with, and talking about the change that you want to make. This is a perfect time to start talking to your friends or family or just social networks about, yeah, New Year's coming up. Like, does anybody have any resolutions or any goals you're working on? Um, and you might be surprised, like how many folks said, yeah, like I'm thinking about doing XYZ. And then if you find some folks that you have that you can be accountable with, um, really maybe setting time to check in with each other, but also providing guidance, but being very open and flexible. Because, maybe you're working on a goal that you've been really consistent with, but your accountability buddy is not. Not judging them, not making them feel bad, but saying like, hey, like, do you need to reshape your goal? Do you need to do something different? Is there something I can help you out with? But really letting you all be flexible with where you're at and where you're going forward, being compassionate because it sounds easy on paper to work on a goal. It can be really hard. And especially depends on what you're doing and where you're at in your life. But I think just finding support, being compassionate, being flexible, and checking in with each other is like the best way to support each other through goal making and working on those goals.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, I have one final question for you
Yeah.
because not every year goes as planned, and that's
Hmm.
totally okay. So, what would you say to a student who feels like they fell short this year and are nervous about trying again in 2026?
Yeah. And been there, done that. Definitely. The thing that and like this year I was being a little more mindful of like a whole year and like all the events of a whole year. A whole year is going to bring up so many different life experiences. You're not always going to feel joyful, and you're not always going to feel sad and angry. But really, when you feel like your year did not go the way that you wanted, that's a great opportunity, though, to think about what did I learn this year? Like, what were the life lessons that I took away? And what do I wish were different? And that can be the thing that motivates you in the next year. So rather than thinking about, oh, this year was hard and I just think that next year's going to be really hard as well, take some time to think about, okay, this year didn't go the way I wanted. What happened? How did I feel about it? But what can I change? And what did I learn? And what's the lesson that I can use going forward that's going to help me? When I think about the lessons that I've learned in my life, they all came from hard points. Like, of course, I love the joyful, exciting, amazing times. We love to feel that way. But when I actually think about where I'm at now in my life perspective, they came from hard life experiences. But I had to learn, okay, I can't just dwell on these life experiences. I have to think about what are they teaching me and how can I use them to become more the person that I want to be. So to any student that feels that way, sit down, think about what didn't go well, where you came up short, and then think, how can I use that though as motivation and inspiration for my next year?
Yeah, I love that. I am a big whenever I do like my little goal setting document for the year or like just a
Mhm.
little like New Year journaling, I always love to spend a page like recapping the last year and the
Yeah.
lessons I learned. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just good to reflect sometime, especially with how fast paced life can get, especially as you get older and you get into college and then the
Yeah.
professional world. It's good just to sit down and be like, what happened? What did I learn?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's important for us to have that time to think, and that's why the new year is a great time
Hmm.
to reflect on the past year, and then you can use that as an opportunity to think about what goals you want to set for the next year.
Okay, well that wraps us up. Thank you again, Alex, for joining us and setting us up for a successful 2026.
Yeah, of course. Was happy to have this conversation, Gage.
And to our audience, if you ever need help with anything college related, you can contact an Education Quest office near you for free help. You can find our contact information or schedule an appointment on educationquest.org. While you're there, make sure you sign up for the weekly Countdown to College email that's filled with all sorts of college tips and tricks. And finally, just help us get this message out to as many students and families as possible by hitting the like button on this episode and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Thank you again for watching and listening, and we will see you all next week.